Cool.
Yeah, and I'm not checking my Instagram. I have notes and stuff.
And if you'd like us.
I think we're both similar in the sense that both of our dads were, I think their lives were changed by Bob Dylan. Like it really changed the course of the way they thought about things, and they were from different places, but massive fans. I mean, her dad was at Newport when he went electric.
Yeah.
My
parents used to go and get babysitters for us when we were little so they could go to Bob Dylan shows.
Yeah.
But they've been going to see Bob since he really started touring around New England.
So, you know, he was a hero of our parents growing up. So his music was always around, and it was always important, you know. Like with my dad, there was only a few things that held up to that level. He was, you know, I grew up, Duane Allman and some of that early stuff was in that light, and Dylan. And for my mom, it was Joni Mitchell, and it was like B.B. King and Ray Charles, and that's almost everything else was secondary. But that crew was always held up in that light. So that's the way I first heard it.
My dad, you know, always played. He had harmonica, so he had like the little harmonica brace like Bob, and always played guitar. So he played acoustic guitar growing up, and he always would be playing his songs, everything from World War III blues to, you know, My Back Pages. And my mom and dad would both sing all the lyrics, all the verses. They knew everything. So we would grow up, you know, having sing-alongs in our house, and my dad would mix it up. He liked a lot of the country blues artists and a lot of the folk artists. So, you know, for us it would be, you know, Dave Van Ronk and people like Phil Oakes, you know, is someone that my mom would like. And then, you know, it was really cool. I really learned a lot about the folk scene. My dad used to go see them at Club 47. He would go see Bob when he was really young. And so he got to see the whole progression of him. And he loved him through every state, you know, every stage of Bob. And it was cute. He was like, well, I booed him at Newport, but I really loved him. I only booed him because he was, you know, our hero. And, you know, and it was really cute. Like he had this whole idea of why he had to boo him. But he really loves him to this day. You know, to this day, he loves his songs, and he's always encouraging us to incorporate more Bob songs. And so is his dad. You know, his dad's a huge fan too. So it's really cool that we both have dads that, you know, really turned us on to Bob early. So I think it was a huge impact as songwriters and as listeners and music lovers.
We've been out on the road with Los Lobos, and I know David Hidalgo was a part of the last handful of records. And the tune Duquesne Whistle, just that, I love that as much as anything he's ever done. So he continues to do it. I mean, he's one of the rare exceptions to the rule of like you have one or two good records and then you're done. It's usually the case, but some guys just keep rolling, and you know, he's always trusted himself more than anyone else, I think, and that's what it takes. I don't think he's listening to a lot of outside opinions of what he should be doing. So if he wants to do an album of standards and be a singer of somebody else's music, then he's like, well, that's what we're gonna do. And so I respect the single-mindedness of the way he goes about it. I think, especially in this day and age of just constant pandering and BSing everyone, he's remained outside of that. So it kind of makes him bulletproof in my eyes. He does what he wants, and when you do that, you're kind of always right as an artist. You know, you keep reinventing yourself and keep rolling down the road. I think once he got going, he was a magnet. People wanted to be a part of his things, and he was always great about picking the right people that had the right spirit. And you can just tell from listening to those early sessions, and then the stuff he did with the band. There's a real freedom and looseness to the way they went about it, and it reminds me of like when I hear about the kind of blues sessions where Miles, he didn't want to put the music in front of the band until they were recording because he wanted to get that first instinct and first take. And I feel like a lot of Dylan's recordings are that way too, where he puts world-class musicians in a room, but he only wants to do it a few times. He doesn't want to beat it to death. He doesn't want to take the life out of it. And you feel that spirit in a lot of those recordings where you can tell everybody is kind of on their toes and loose, and it feels like a jam session, but it just happens to be the best musicians that you could possibly get. But there's that spirit, and you never hear a record of his that feels tired or lazy or like just too studioed out, and I always appreciate that. So he lets the music breathe. And I think a lot of that's the folk background. I mean, he was in and around all those guys, Booker White, Sunhouse, John Hurt. He was running in those circles and seeing just kind of the way they went about it and the way that music felt. And I feel like he's kept that folk tradition throughout whatever he's done. So there's an honesty to it that I think that hits a lot of people too. Sometimes before they get to the lyrics and the words, it's just the spirit of it and the feel of it.
I've always been enamored by the way he plays guitar and harmonica, even just by himself, and then hearing him in different situations with different producers is always fascinating, because somehow he, like Derek said earlier, he's always recreating himself, and he's not afraid to take on different personas, which I think is great. Like, of course, like his voice on Lay Lady Lay is so different than something from Time Out of Mind, and it's just really cool to hear him be able to be, have that freedom to be a pure artist in a lot of ways, and not just a songwriter and not just a guitar player or a singer, but the whole picture. Like, he really encompasses what you hope to be as a musician. You have a lot of opportunities to play with people like like you were saying, the band, or someone like Al Cooper, Mike Bloomfield, and so many different artists that really were iconic in their different time periods. But they all were also honored to play with Bob. Like, if you ask any of those guys, they're gonna say, like, even if it's someone who's amazing, like, of course, they're all gonna say that was probably a highlight for them, because he's a really interesting and pure musician. And
he's a lifer too. I mean, there's some guys some songwriters, it seems like they like avoiding being on the road, and they'll just write tunes, and every once in a while a record will come out. But he's like B.B. King or Willie Nelson, or he's just always going. That's our speed. I mean, we've been on the road since we were kids, and you kind of feel that you're always going to be on the road. And when you see someone like Dylan, you're like, cool, yeah. We can do it. Like, he's still rolling, and he's still enjoying it, and he still means it. And he's in that small group of those guys.
I love the guys he plays with nowadays.
Yeah.
Love Tony Granier. He's a beautiful bass player, and I know he's played with Larry and with Charlie, Charlie Sexton, and those guys. And I don't even know who he plays with all the time, because I don't know if he mixes it up or not. I don't get to see him on tour, but he always has really classy, really down-to-earth guys that are playing with him, and that can do anything, and that can hear wherever he's going. Because you need to have people be able to follow him, because he's so spontaneous, which I love too. You might know his songs inside and out, and then you hear him do a song, you're like, what is that? And you're like, wait, that's Girl from the North Country? You wouldn't even recognize it, because it's such a different arrangement now. So I like how he likes to reinvent his own things as well, which is really unique. I don't think everybody always does that.
Yeah, he'll take a turn. He's not afraid of that.
That's beautiful.
The first time I saw him perform and then ended up sitting in with him, I think I was 11 or 12, and we played 2 shows in Florida at these theaters, Clearwater and St. Petersburg. And like I was saying earlier, my dad is, Dylan is, there could be no one better for his son to be on a bill with. And the first night we played and we watched the show, I remember the second show we got done playing, and there was something going on between the promoter and my dad, and they got into it, and he's like, come on, we're out of here. Like, I don't care if Dylan asks himself to sit it, we're rolling. And as we're leaving the building, Dylan comes in, and he's with his manager, and his manager leans down, and he's like, Mr. Dylan requests your presence on stage. And so I just look up at my dad. He's like, of course. Yeah, I was just kidding. Of course you can stay. So I ended up jumping up mid-set, and I think Highway 61 was maybe the first tune I played. And then once it started rolling, it was just like, you're not leaving. It ended up just one tune to the next. And, I was too young to be too nervous about it, because I knew who Bob Dylan was. But I think if I'd have been 20 or 25, it would have been like, oh shit, I'm playing with Bob Dylan. And then I saw him maybe 11 years later when I did this tour with Phil Lesh, and it was Dylan and Phil Lesh's band. And I flew in the middle because their guitar player had split, something had gone down. And I showed up, and when I saw him before, I was 11, and I was 22 or 23, so I figured, I'm not even gonna try to say hello. There's no way he'd remember that. It was a long time ago. And I ran into him in the hallway, and he's like, think it's probably been 10, 12 years since I saw you last. He totally, like he has this appearance that he's not paying attention to what's going on, but like down to the day, I think it was in Florida. I was like, yeah, it was actually. Like he has an incredible memory for that stuff. Then we did the tribute, the Grammy tribute.
Yeah.
And we
Music
were,
Cares.
yeah, I mean, we were really, honored and shocked
Excited
that he asked us to do it, because he picked the artists and then he picked the songs he wanted them to perform. So that was a great day too, and getting to watch him give that speech to the room of just all these industry people that you could tell who he was going,
and
what he meant and who he was going after. It
politicians and everything. I mean, Al Gore to whoever was there. It was incredible.
That was one of the better moments that I've been in the room for, musically or otherwise.
He should have just dropped the mic and just.
As he got going, his stance just got wider, like a gunslinger. Like as he got deeper into it, it's like, go baby. It was a powerful moment. And then it hit me. I was like, he's still like a punk at heart. He's still got that outsider thing after all these years, which I love. He hasn't lost his edge at all, and that was pretty damn inspiring getting to watch that. When did you play with him?
So. I'm trying to remember, it's either 98 or 99.
I knew you. I mean, we were...
Okay, if you knew me, then it was 99. Yeah. It was like September of 99. I got to open with my band, and I think it was Chris and Tommy, so it was Double Trouble, was my rhythm section. And I got to open up, and I was just like, I wonder if I'm going to get to meet him. I was like all nervous and excited. And so after my set, they're like, oh, excuse me, Mr. Dillon wants to talk to you. I'm like, really? I was like, okay. So got to go meet him, and I remember the very first thing he said, he was like, how do you get that tone? I was like, what? And he's like, on your guitar. And I was like, really? He's like, I love your guitar playing. I was like, wow, like I've never in a million years would have thought that, because I've always kind of, the singer or something. So it was really, it blew my mind. And he asked me to get up and play with him. So I thought he was going to get me up to sing. No, he wanted me to play guitar. So I was like, oh, Lord. I was like, Tony, I need you. I went over to Tony Granier. I'm like, just yell out some changes. Like, I know these songs growing up, but I know them all, vocally, lyrically, not necessarily all the chords perfectly. And
Tony was great about that, because I think when I was 11, he was in the band and he was yelling changes at me
whatever,
too.
Yeah.
He's like,
so
here's the lifeline. Me
out. I was like, thank you. I love you so much. And so it really worked out good, because he didn't just get me up there for one song. I was up there for about 6 or 7 songs. So I was like, thank God for this band, because they were amazing. And he was just fantastic. He had so much energy. And then actually somebody had a bootleg video later that they gave me of the two of us. And I'm just sitting there smiling away. He's smiling, he's kicking his feet, and we're swapping solos. It was a dream. It didn't even seem real. Honestly, I think back and I'm like, wow, what a beautiful moment. And I'm just so thankful to have those kind of memories, just to be there and get to hear him. And I couldn't get over how different some of the songs had changed, and how cool they were, or how he just really is the master of reinventing, beautiful, great songs. And that's the one thing too. I mean, when you have a great song, it holds up no matter who's going to do it or what kind of an arrangement. A great song is a great song. And so he is the master of that. He's definitely always been my favorite songwriter. So.
Perfect. Beautiful.
Cool.
Thank you. You guys didn't rehearse that before we?
Yeah.
I was like, no purpose.
Nice.
That was great.
Cool, man.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Yeah.